Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. Sorry for the hiatus, guys. I got sick. First started with a migraine, then I got congestion and dizziness, lightheadedness, and all that fun stuff. But man, whoever thought of United States episodes for the TV series that we must be living in, boy, the writers have gotten creative. Biden backed out today. He is no longer running for president. He has endorsed Kamala Harris. I think Kamala Harris is one of the most unlikable people that is in politics right now, especially with her cackle. Not to mention that she's put people in prison just to keep chain gangs going in California. She kept an innocent man in jail despite knowing he was innocent. She didn't even garner 1 point for when she ran against Biden to get in, and I think she was the first DEI person that they picked because she was black and she was female. So I don't see her being able to win. I don't see anything like that. And man, we lived through another assassination attempt. And I say, another assassination attempt. Think about this. If you were alive in the 80s, you lived through President Reagan's assassination attempt. And, there's been a lot of speculation coming out. We're more and more, a week into this now. We should know a lot more than we do. But the information is slow to come to. And I think that's really stupid, because having been on the other side of the coin here, within an hour of the shooting in Aztec that I had to deal with, the FBI knew everything there was to tell you about the shooter in Aztec. They were able to tell us stories, not just them, but the sheriff's office here. Believe me, they know everything there is to know about this guy. They're just not releasing it, probably because it doesn't fit the narrative. The narrative that they want anyway. Because it probably was, and there's no doubt in my mind that this was politically motivated, and that it was some leftoid that went nuts and decided that he was going to take his pound of flesh out rather than do it on the ballot box like normal people and vote someone out. They were going to make themselves known by trying to take the president out of the loop. Now, have you ever heard of something called blueanon? So, if you've ever heard of the anon it is a fantasy, conspiracy theories that came out about, during the Trump era, it was all these giant conspiracies, and blueanon is its counterpart. It's where all the leftists come up with these deranged ideas that there's no way they could possibly happen. And that's what you're seeing with people like Joy Reid and a ton of other people who are coming out saying that Trump didn't get shot, that he actually faked this. And thank God for people being jokesters or whatever. Grantham and Brendan Herrera did some recreations of the shooting to show what would actually happen if a bullet pierced an ear, and it was pretty telling. Those of us who know about the AR-15 know that it is not going to just rip heads off and do all kinds of things. This isn't some magic gun that just destroys the innards of things when it hits stuff. That's media press. That doesn't happen. In fact, it's been found to be not the greatest round when we were fighting skinny guys because it just ice-picked through them and didn't cause enough damage. So what did those recreations show? Well, the one from Brandon Herrera showed very conclusively what the damage of the ear would look like. They were using ballistics gel. That was calibrated. That was a close approximation of what a human ear would be like. And what was even funnier is they were showing the type of rifle, and so was Grantham that this guy used. So he didn't use a top-tier accuracy-prone rifle. He used a rack-grade AR-15, which is about a 3 MOA gun, which means that for them to actually be able to precisely put a round in Trump's ear, not trying to kill him, is damn near impossible. It's mechanically impossible for the gun and the type of sighting system he was using. He was using a red dot. And with that red dot, if you're at about 100 yards, that dot covers the target pretty substantially. So to be able to be precise and to just nick an ear is not something this person was trying to do. Now, Mr. Guns and Gear, I love him to death, and he's been covering this. And what it basically boils down to from his perspective, and I think it's very correct, is that they were undermanned. When I say they, I mean the Secret Service. They had 4 sniper teams, not the full presidential package. They relied on local law enforcement, which isn't bad, to do a lot of the stuff that the Secret Service would do. But there's some questions. There's too many coincidences here that even my non-conspiracy-minded brain goes to that says that either this was dramatic incompetence, which I'm leaning towards, because it is the government, and the government is dramatically incompetent. So it kind of makes sense that someone who is the leader of this group, that Cheeto lady that's the lead of the Secret Service, it makes a lot of sense to me that after years of protecting President Biden, and President Trump, they protect them both, and lots of other people, and the continuous assault and attack on Trump specifically, that people got complacent, and that if they were undermanned, they definitely could have made some mistakes here. Now, the questions I have are just like Mr. Guns and Gear, like why wouldn't you secure that roof or put a sniper team on that roof? Because, well, it's one of the most obvious points that you would want to secure. It's come out that there was a 4 sniper team that was about 50 feet away or 50 yards away from that on the second story of that same building. And they may have actually been the ones that did the shot that killed the guy. But here's the thing. I mean, you look at this and, the odds are, just knowing what we know about the government, how idiotic it is, and how big it is, and how many idiots get jobs that they don't qualify for, how big of an assumption of that is it to say that these guys actually just got complacent and stupid, and they ended up almost costing a man his life? It's sad to think of it that way. There was a time and place that I believe that our federal government would have had the cream of the crop of the best, merit-based people. But that time has long since passed, tens of years now that we've had that happen, where DEI took over and people just got jobs because they filled a role, or they needed a quota to fill a role. And it makes a lot of sense to me, as much as I don't want it to be that case, that the government is that incompetent at protecting someone that they gave that, that's their job to do. And that came to highlight for me, and I've talked about this a lot during COVID, is you saw people that was their job, that is their bag baby, and they failed. How hard was it to think about stopping flights from China to kind of keep this virus in check so that it wasn't allowed into our borders? That isn't a huge stretch for anyone that isn't using politics there, that says if something is capable of, something is there, we don't want to just keep allowing that stuff, that virus to spread. So let's stop all flights from that area to us. Maybe let's stop all flights to us. And when Trump brought that up, he was said to be a racist bigot. Well, reality is that wasn't a racist comment. That's a logical comment. And we're in a time and a place right now where logic doesn't work. It works for most of us, but it doesn't work when it comes to the political sphere. Biden has come out excuse me, and said he wants to ban the AR-15 specifically because of Trump, whether this attempt was on Trump. Truth is, he just wants to ban the AR-15. The AR-15 is no more worse or better than any other rifle, and this particular instance proves it. If the AR-15 was so capable, so deadly, Trump wouldn't be here. It's the shooter that makes the rifle so deadly or so capable. And in the world we're in, where there's a lot of incapable people, they have to use those force multipliers of going where there's a ton of people so that they override the statistics to show that they have no shooting ability or no skill. Could that shot have been made where it actually pierced just his ear? Probably. M1 Garand showed that it could be done with a lot better rifle than what that guy had. That said, it was still pretty incredibly hard for him to do with that rifle. And the question goes is why? It's skill. Grand Thumb is, a former spec op guy. He's one of those guys that is actually very well versed and very well trained with firearms. So, he would know. Same thing with Mr. Guns and Gear. He's looking at it because he's had to do security type details like this before. He, in his former life, he was law enforcement. He's done this type of stuff. He may not be 100% versed in this type of stuff, but he's got some skill sets there that actually translate very well to this. And what he's saying makes a lot of sense. And that's where logic is failing. You can only make so many assumptions and think that maybe this may have been planned. I understand that point of view, but I really, really have learned in the last 10 years, I would say the last 5 years specifically, that the government itself, state or federal, is incompetent, really incompetent. And the larger it's grown, the more incompetent it's became. Because they allow idiots to get into jobs or positions that they're not qualified for in any way, shape, or form. Look at our governor in New Mexico. She's called a special session because of the crime waves that we've had in New Mexico. And she's wanting increased penalties for felons with that are caught with firearms. Okay. Makes sense a little bit. But she's also increased that or doubled down on the prohibition of the 2A in Albuquerque because she thinks that's going to save people. Criminals don't follow laws. This guy that shot at Trump, what law did he follow right up until that point? He failed a long time ago. Number one, you don't bring guns to anything like this. Any type of rally like this because it's illegal. You cannot carry a gun in the presence of the president, period. And the idea here is to protect them, and he broke that law. He killed Corey Competore. He didn't care about anything else but getting his pound of flesh, and breaking the law was just part of this. That's the same with all criminals. There is no sunshiny, happy place where a criminal is going to sit there and think that, if I don't do this, or maybe I don't use a gun, I'm that much better of a criminal. No, they're still criminals. There's that mentality that people keep wanting to say that people are generally good. And I like to agree with them on most places, but you have to realize the hard, cold reality that there's a lot of people that don't care about you. The world does not revolve around you. And all they want is whatever they need for themselves, or what they see is what they need for themselves. To that end, they will do whatever it takes to get it. And this is a matter of their mindset. If you think that you're just going to slide by and that you're never going to need a gun, I hope you never do. But the reality is, while the odds are slim that you are going to need it, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. You know, I've sat here and I thought a lot about what I was going to cover today when I came back. You know, as you can tell, I'm still a little stuffed up, still trying to get over this last bit of whatever the hell it is I got. I didn't bother to test for COVID, and it could have been COVID. It could have been just a flu. It could have been anything else. It seems to be a seasonal type thing because I've seemed to be this sick type person every year around this time. So there's that. But it makes me think about what I was going to cover. You know, there's a lot of cool stuff I saw. I saw an M27 clone. So if you don't know what that is, the M27 is HK's 416 clone that the Marine Corps has. Plus, the Bodyguard came out. Smith & Wesson came out with a Bodyguard 2.0. They took a lot of the lessons from the LCP Max and made a better gun. You know, they made a better trigger. They gave it more capacity, made it still light and handy. So the question is, where do we go from here? What do we cover from the New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union? We're going to cover it all. I think it's hilarious that Biden finally saw the writing on the wall and either was forced out or decided not to do this election season. Now, what happens with Kamala Harris? I honestly think this was kind of puts the nail in the coffin for the Democratic Party, because depending upon who she picks as a running mate, and she'll have to pick one, they don't have a very deep bench. And the ones I could see coming out of the woodwork right now are Whitmer, Gavin Newsom. I can even see Clinton coming in. I could see Michelle Obama coming in because somebody, you know, right now they're grasping at straws to get someone elected. It's too late in the season. A lot of guys keep saying, well, don't judge the polls yet because the polls have never been right until we get closer to the election season. We're 2 months away from the election. So 2.5 months, actually. It's 2 weeks left of July. And then we have August and September, and then November 5th is when the election's supposed to be held. So there's got to be a lot of things happening in the Democratic Party right now to address this issue. And they have their caucus, or their version of the RNC, the DNC, here shortly to formally nominate Kamala Harris. Now, why do I suspect they will stick with the Kamala Harris nomination? Because she has a deep war chest, because she can use Biden's war chest, and Biden has got a lot of donors already. And money moves mountains, especially with elections. So what would I tell you? I would say get out and vote. If any time that your vote matters, right now it would be it. You better crawl over broken glass to get out and vote. Not just for your local elections, but for your national election, because this national election actually could matter. If you want Trump to be that guy, vote him in. If you want Harris to be that guy, vote him in. But unless you get out there and make your voice known, nothing's going to happen. Like, share, subscribe. Most importantly, be great.